Hi, Jim. How's it going?
Lisa, how are you doing?
Happy belated birthday. We've
Oh,
had a birthday since our last airing.
great. Thank you for that. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, how was it?
Good. Got to spend time with family, which I enjoy doing.
That's good. Well, yeah, I have actually questions for this episode. And actually, this will be our last Photo Tips Monthly in this format. We're going to kind of roll over into a whole new format next year. So that'll
Cool.
be interesting. And if we're still good, we'll move that time just a little bit later on a first Thursday, just so we can see if we can get more people who would like to participate who are at work and stuff during this time and can only catch it on the replay.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we're just waiting for James to jump in. I don't know where he's jumping in from. This is our busiest time of the year. Um, a
Believe
lot of
that.
us have told our families for the next 3 weeks we do not exist. I think that's what Rupa had said. She
That's fun.
was telling people at home. Um, yeah, there's a lot going on here. We have our Cyber Week sale going on. I think down now we are down to about 20% today. So, which includes framing, cards, our canvas prints. Great sale. So that way, you just don't get a discount that Black Friday or just Cyber Monday. We try to have it the whole week. Um, but there are so many, people who are putting orders in also for their clients that are doing Christmas shopping. So we do have our deadlines. Actually, what I'll probably do really quick is just share that so that people can take visual look at that one more time. Let me get on here and share my screen really quick. Let's see while we are waiting. And I'm sure when James gets on, he'll want to cover that too. Let me pop that
I
on.
bet.
So if you go to our website at the top left there, you can go ahead and click on view details. And so these are going to be the deadline dates that you want to get by midnight Central Time to get your orders delivered by Christmas. Um, and let's face it, a lot of y'all creatives like to wait to that last minute. I don't know if it's just that flare of dramatic thing that we like to do to ourselves, but these are the deadlines to absolutely get these items to your clients by Christmas. So take a look at those. Our Cyber Week sale right there, like I said, is right now we are at 20% off. I think tomorrow will be 10%, and we have our code Cyber Week going on. So make sure to have that code in your checkout and hit apply before you put your payment through. So that will be something there to note. Also, note that if you're waiting for a reply from our customer service or you're maybe looking for your order confirmation, check in your spam. Don't know what emails decided to do over the last couple of months, but everything seems to be going to spam. So that is going to be a good place to look to see if you have a reply if you're waiting for something from customer service. Let me go ahead and stop sharing that screen. And we have, like I said, it's our busiest time. So be patient. Our customer service team is actually still answering within 24 hours of a business day. And we are shipping out almost thousands of orders a day to kind of just with the flow of everything going on. So we are trying to do that when customer service has to go meet with other departments sometimes to track down your issues. So uh, make sure to check that spam. Be patient. It's the holidays. Try to stay in a happy mood, and everything will work out. How about you, Jim? Are you done with your Christmas shopping? Are you one of those people who finishes early and
No, I've done some, but I'm certainly not done.
not done? You're not
Still
you're
a
not
few more
showing
to
up at
go.
gas stations at December 24th and saying, this
Oh,
M&M's is gonna
I
make
have
a
done
great
that.
Christmas.
Yeah, I for the boys when they were little, I would often stop at Walgreens or CVS or Target and pick up a bunch of things to fill up that
Stocking.
that stalking at the last minute on the way home from working that day. Uh, I don't
Yep.
necessarily do that quite as much anymore.
Mine's 25, and I still find myself getting Pokemon cards to shove in for her stocking. So
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, she has a mom who still collects a whole bunch of toys. So I guess it's just something that we're going to keep going with. Well, today we're going to talk about creating and adding a watermark to your photos. And I'm hoping like, you can kind of help people with not even also just on adding that, but maybe placement of where that should go. Um, there are a lot of things on social media. You'll get like a rash of those posts that are like, I do not give Facebook or Instagram the right to use my photos, and because a lot of photographers use social media now to promote themselves, and there is you're using a third party platform in there, and I know actually too when you use some of these kind of the quiz games when you want to find out what type of couch potato you are.
Right.
Um, and if you go into those small print stuff in there, it says you're allowing access to your Facebook photos, your information, even if you have it marked as private. Um, and a lot of those are, I think the intent of them is to sell to marketing companies, but they don't necessarily vet those companies that say they are marketing companies. So sometimes you'll end up getting the, "Hi, I'm this person. I'm sending you a friend request, and you already have that friend on your profile."
Yeah.
So the use of the photos have gone on to there too. So maybe like with watermarks, where's the best place to put them without being distracting? And I mean, there's that balance. How do you protect your image without it being distracting from the photo? Because you want people to be able to appreciate your work and your style, and seeing that. And some people will have kind of like the Shutterstock watermark that goes on. It's kind of like a grid, and then it
Yeah.
has the name in there, and that's really distracting too. At that point, I don't think it works even as a photo on a social media post. To me, I mean, I can understand that if you have it on the a website and you're gonna let people maybe go through a catalog to download, but and that works for Shutterstock, but not necessarily maybe for a photographer who's trying to sell their portrait services. So as we get into this, maybe you can kind of give some tips on how, and you figured out placement for that watermark, and if it changes based on social media basis, maybe samples. So I remember back in the day when we used to have prints of proofs, and I worked at that 1 hour pro photo where I first met you, and we would do a whole bunch of portrait studios with their watermark proofs on there to send out and pick, which one you're going to have for your kids. So yeah, hopefully you can give us some direction on where those are, and anybody joining us and watching it. If you have questions, just go to your live chat right there, and we'll be able to see your comments here, and I'll get those up on the screen for Jim to answer.
Nice. Well, there's obviously a lot of reasons why you might want to watermark a photograph. There's good reasons and there's not so good reasons. There's good ways and there's not so good ways, but it's all, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What do you feel is best to help promote your work? Because you're right, there are places that still, not as many, but there are places that still do that proof all over the place, like you mentioned just a moment ago, where you're seeing proof all over the place, all just spread out all on the image, making it pretty obvious you're not supposed to use this image. And even if you were to attempt, it would be a real pain to try and fix it. Now, maybe there's some software out there that gets rid of watermarks real easily. I'm just not aware of it. But no matter what, it makes it more difficult. But it makes it where those who would not have been inclined to know that they shouldn't be doing that kind of thing, it makes them aware that they shouldn't be doing that kind of thing. And so it's not a guarantee that someone won't use your work if that's what your intention is. It's just a little level of added info to help in that direction. And so you may do it for marketing purposes. You may do it for image protection purposes. And what does image protection mean? So that someone doesn't use your work and put, use it as theirs and sell it, or put their logo on it. With some, uh, let's say you do some commercial work, you probably don't want your logo on it when you send it to your client, because they need to use it without. Plus, they're going to be putting their logo on that ad with your image anyway. And so they need something that's kind of plain, and they're going to be adding something to it, text that's probably going to turn into an ad that they'll produce. There are some photographers and other types of artists who create that ad also, in addition to creating the image. So there's a lot of different uses, a lot of different purposes, a lot of different reasons for using, a lot of different places to put it on the image. There's just a lot of variables. All of them make sense when you stop and think about it, though. So let's say you're a high volume portrait photographer, like a school photographer. And there's different ways that school photographers do their work. They do prepay, and you order ahead of time, send your money in ahead of time, get the photograph, and then get the prints back. And if you don't like them, they have a retake day, and you go back for retakes. So there's one way. Another way is they go ahead and print the packages for everyone and send them home. That's called spec or speculation, where they send those images home. On either one of those two styles, the prepay or the speculation, most photographers don't put a watermark in. If they don't put an annoying watermark on it. They may put a small one down in the bottom right corner just to identify this is the company that created it. I do see that often, like Life Touch down in the bottom. I see that often, and that's great. That's fine. That's what they do. That's one of their marketing efforts. That's just to show that this was created by that company. But the third way of doing that is proofs. And you don't see this quite as much anymore, but you do still see it, where they either send it via an email to you and you have a link that you can go see the images, or they print it out and send it home. It's usually done with digital nowadays, but it used to be that wasn't an option. It was a digital side. And so they would print these smaller prints, usually really small, and they would send that home to you, home via the kids to in backpacks to the parents. And on those images, you'd see that proof all over the place, so that someone didn't take that image as their own. However, people did it anyway. I haven't seen this in quite some time, but maybe 10 years ago, I saw it quite often, where someone would just, I don't know, use their cell phone to take an image of that proof image, and they'd post it on their Facebook page, making me think that they don't realize that that's not only not ethical, it's actually illegal to do that. Those images were made by a company who sells those. If you use something, if you take something that someone else is selling, that's called stealing. In fact, I'll give you an example. This may seem like an odd one, but it'll make sense. If you are a photographer who does mall Santa pictures, you are in the mall doing photographs of Santa, and some parent comes up and photographs their own kid. Is that legal or illegal? It's their kid. They should be able to photograph their kid doing whatever their kid's doing, except that company is selling those photographs. If you take what it is that a company sells, that is called stealing in any form. It'd be the same as if you went into some store and stole something for a girl's hair tie, whatever those. Gosh, well, I didn't have girls. I had two boys, so what do I know? Probably a bad example. But if you went to a store and sold something simple, something that cost $5, it's still stealing. It doesn't change anything, because that company is there to sell that. Well, if you're there at the mall to sell your photographs, then someone taking what it is that you're selling is illegal. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with our subject today, except that it touches in the why do we even add a watermark? One of the reasons is so someone doesn't steal what it is that we're trying to sell. Now, does that mean they don't do it? No, they'll still do it. It's just it will reduce the number. Some people have been taught either through school or through just experience that another image, any image, is automatically copyrighted the moment it's created. In fact, any creation, anything that doesn't exist that you create is in the U.S. Maybe some of you are watching for other places. I don't know what laws are anywhere else, but here in the U.S., the moment of creation, when a creator creates something, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't even matter what medium it's on. So if you were to draw on a napkin, the moment you create that image, that drawing, you own the copyright to it. So, I mean, that's how copyright works. So you create an image, and it's why I'd like to use proper vocabulary when I'm talking about photography. Instead of shoots and pics and all that kind of stuff, I like to call it photographs and photography. And I like to use the right words. I don't do photo shoots. I do photography sessions. And part of the reason is if you come across as professional, you are much less likely to have images stolen. But it's still going to happen. It reduces it, but it doesn't eliminate it. And so one reason why someone may watermark an image is to reduce the potential of someone stealing it. Because when someone sees your logo on it or your circle C with your name, then they are less likely to take it. Again, people will still do it. There will still be some small percentage that will. But that's one reason. Now, another main reason why you should consider watermarking an image. And by the way, I don't watermark all my images. In fact, most of them don't get a watermark. But one reason I might do it is for marketing purposes. If I'm giving someone images to put on their social media, I'm probably going to put my watermark on it. Always? No, there's reasons why I wouldn't. So there's some thoughts and ideas about that. Melissa, did you have any questions about why you would do it before I move into the how?
Well, no, I was just thinking that, the internet, some of us have been around prior to the internet and then when the internet came out, because you're able to work now with a global community. So, like what you were just mentioning, in the US, you may own it at creation. Um, and I think that that's a difficulty for a lot of people is they want to protect every possible um, door that can come in and take that image, which is not a possible, that really is setting yourself up for failure because you're not going to be able to protect it from every instance. Like you said, I mean, there's just always going to be, but just know that it's a small percent that'll do that. And usually it's discovered, right, towards the end. And um, so I just wanted to have people kind of take that because I think there's so many people who fear even using the internet to promote themselves because they have this fear they're going to be stolen from. Well, if you have a car out in the front yard, in front of your house,
Yeah,
you're going to
that's a
stop
good
driving
analogy.
because there's the fear that somebody could take your car.
Yeah.
No, it's you have insurance, yes, but it's all you can do is like at least do the best. Like I said, watermark is a possible protection, just like locking your doors. So think of it as that. You're doing the most possible, but you're not going to extremes.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And as far as where do you put it on an image, well, I'm going to go through. I'm going to in just a moment show you the steps of doing it in Lightroom and then in Photoshop. And so I'll show you exactly where, but I'll describe it to you before I get to that. I know there are some who put it all over the place, and like you said, it distracts attention away from your art, and so I don't generally recommend that. In fact, I don't know that I've ever recommended that. I understand why someone would want to do that. I understand why the stock photography companies do it, because a lot of them put their it's transparent, but it's still plenty obvious. So I understand why they're doing that. I choose not to do that because I figure if someone's going to steal it, they probably would never have bought it from me anyway. But I usually put it in either the bottom right or the bottom left corner, and it's relatively small. It could be cropped out where I put it. So, that happens. If someone wants to take that effort, while I'm not going to like it, I'm not going to go into any additional effort to make it not happen.
Mhm.
So, like you said, locking the doors, I do that. That doesn't mean someone can't break in. So I appreciate that analogy and the car analogy. Those are good. Yeah. So, I now why would I choose one side or the other? It's almost always in the bottom right corner. It's almost always there. However, on an individual image, if this is if it's on skin, I I reevaluate or I consider where, because if that winds up here on someone's chest, it kind of looks funny. If it winds up on someone's leg, on skin, now clothing, it doesn't really affect me. But when it's on skin, I do consider, would it look better on the other side? And so at that point, I may move my logo to the other side. When you're in a museum, where do those artists, the painters, sign their work? It's
Right.
almost always on that bottom right corner. Is it always? Of course not. There's some painters that hide their signature in the art, and there's some that don't sign it at all. But I definitely like knowing who the artist is, and so I appreciate that being there. Now, when it comes to printed work, I'd never watermark. And if I was doing a large number, I have. For instance, and I don't know if it's still there, but there's a photograph of the Alamo that it at least used to be. It may still be in the AT&T Center here in San Antonio, where the San Antonio Spurs play. And so when you walk into the seats, there's these small kiosks that sell small, just one item things like soft drinks or hot dogs or whatever, beer. Uh, and on the sides of each one of those kiosks is the same photograph, but it's a photograph of the Alamo. And for that, there was going to be 60 of them made, and I was only selling the digital file to them so that they could print it themselves and put it up themselves and take care of that part of it for me or for themselves. And so I put my watermark on the bottom right corner of that digital file. That way, every print that was created has my logo on it. And so if it's still there, you could still see it today. I don't know if it's still there. It's been a long time since I've
Mhm.
been to the AT&T Center. But there's an example of why I would do it when do a watermark when printing. Otherwise, I'm signing, hand signing, and I have a heated ballpoint pen, and I sign on that bottom right corner with so a combo. It's a gold foil
Mhm.
that has a backing on it, so it's not light and flowing away. It's gold and it's on a roll. So I've got this gold foil, and I take that heated ballpoint pen. I stick the uh, the gold foil down on the print itself, and I'm with that heated ballpoint pen. It's connected to the wall. I sign my name. I do a circle C, copyright, and then Landers, and then well, I'm sorry. I just do Landers and underneath do the circle C and then the year. So
Mhm.
this is 2022. So it's a Landers and underneath circle C 2022. And it's usually as simple as that. I usually don't sign my whole name. It's just usually the last name.
With commercial use, like that instance with the AT&T Center, Jim, do you put that in the contract to make sure that they don't crop it out, logo, or is that up to the client's discretion to go ahead and say, hey, we want it to not have
I
the
suppose
photographer?
they could have done that, but I asked and they said, sure.
Oh,
And so it wasn't there. It wasn't in any contract. I don't think. I don't.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't
Is
added,
it,
and I
it was
don't
a
think it was there.
Texas handshake and verbal agreement, huh?
Yeah, of course, their goal was speed.
Yeah.
They needed it yesterday, kind of a situation, which almost every commercial purpose is that. I need this. Yes, I needed it yesterday. Should
Yep.
have called you guys a week, 2 weeks, a month ago. So it was one of those things where they called me on a Friday and they needed it on Monday. So it was fast. They okay. So I I think I told a little white lie. I'll tell you what that was. They called on Friday saying, "Do you have any stock images of the Alamo during the day, uh, maybe closer to the evening, in a vertical format?" And I said, "I do, but I'm busy right now. When do you need it by?"
Hmm.
There's the lie. And they said we need it by first thing on Monday. And so I went over the weekend and photographed what they wanted. So I'm crossing my fingers. It's going to be good weather. And of
Yeah.
course, here in San Antonio, it almost always is. And so, yeah, I had that image created and sent it to them by the time they needed it. And just added my logo to it. They told me what size it was going to be, what the proportions were going to be, and it was tall. It was real tall, so it wouldn't be like a standard size, like a 16 by 20 or a 30 by 40. Or sorry, it wouldn't. It was, I think it was 16 wide by 25 tall. I don't recall. It could have been taller, but so it was relatively skinny, and definitely not a standard
Aspect
size.
ratio.
They
Yeah.
were having, I think they had already ordered the prints or excuse me, the frames, because they fit the space that was created, that was there on the sides of these kiosks. And so I just added my logo to it.
Well,
I actually forgot to do it when I sent it to them. I
they send
hit
it.
send and I was like, dang it. So I quickly made another one and sent it to them and sent them an email saying, don't print that first one. I forgot to put my logo on it, and they corrected it. They I guess ignored the first email I sent. Yeah, I do that every once in a while. Click that send button a little too soon without thinking it through. Yep. So that's that one experience. It's kind of fun to share stories like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the how. How do we actually do this? And in any image manipulation program, you can add things to it as long as layering is possible. And so there's a lot of software programs that do allow you to do this, a lot of apps on your phone that will allow you to do this. But we're going to be talking about Lightroom and Photoshop today on how to do it there, which is generally speaking the most professional look possible. But it depends on its use. For instance, if something's just going to go online, just going to be on a Facebook page, a LinkedIn page, a Instagram post, if that's all it's going to be used for, then an app on your phone will do just fine in adding a watermark, because you don't need a high level of quality to make an image look good on a screen. You need a high level of quality for an image to look good in print, though. So there's the difference between the quality producers and those who are, that doesn't mean that people who are creating things for internet aren't quality. It has nothing to do with that. I'm talking about picture quality. It requires more pixels to look good in print than it does on a screen. So
Screen's about 75 DPI, and print you can go about 300 DPI.
300, yeah. And I guess you have a little leeway when it comes to canvas, but that's not for this conversation. But I wanted to, and let's see, let me share my screen with you. And I believe I can share just.
Yeah, Chrome tab, or you can share just that portion.
Huh. So I'm looking at the window options, and Lightroom isn't one of them.
Oh, let's see.
How's that possible? Photoshop is.
Well, that's interesting.
I'll just share my screen. That way you can see it. When I show you in Photoshop, I'll share just the window. But yeah, that is interesting.
And that could be Adobe's little copyright. Who knows?
Maybe. All right. So I'll share my screen. And is it sharing?
Not yet. Let me see if I do this. No.
When I do this, I go blind. I can't see you anymore.
I know.
And so I don't actually know whether it's being
it's
sent
not
or
yet.
not. No? Okay, let me go back. What is it showing?
Right now, just us.
Oh, so like nothing changed.
Like nothing changed, exactly.
How about now?
So far, still no. Oh, you know what? We got to add it. That's why. Add to stream. Let's see if this. Let me go ahead and get a better layout for you. I think that one was, or do you want just the screen completely?
And I won't be able to see, but my goal is just so that you can see my Lightroom on. I want viewers to be able to see my Lightroom.
Okay, so we see your Lightroom right now,
Yay!
and we see you and I to the left. But I can do a full screen of your Lightroom if that is probably better with the small.
Probably, yeah, because these are kind of small.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to share the handout too. I think I can share two windows at the same time. Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I see them both right now. And
Good.
your presentation covers up about half of your Lightroom where all your thumbnails are.
Good. Because I don't need for anybody to see the thumbnails. You might be curious what's on there. It's just an event. But I think you might want to follow along with what I am doing. Now, when I click on Lightroom, that's going to go away. So maybe I should make that a little bit smaller. And this is going to work just fine. That's probably as small as it's going to let me go. Mm-hmm. All right. So right now on your screen, if it's the same width as mine, if it's not, you may not be seeing all of this. You should be seeing a Microsoft Word document. And I could make those letters a little bit smaller, but they're probably just as small as you guys can handle as it is. And the right behind it is Lightroom. Yeah. So if I'm to be creating a watermark in Lightroom, there's a couple of options. I can do a text watermark where I just add in, a circle C and the year and my name. And by the way, that format is a circle C, then the year, and then the name, and then geographic information. So if I were to do a text version, in fact, I'm just going to show you instead of tell. So you can see here, number one, you open Lightroom, you go to the edit menu and you go to edit watermarks, which is down at the bottom. So I'm going to click on edit menu, go all the way down to edit watermarks. And if I'm going too quickly, let me know. If anyone's following along, I probably need to be going real slow with this. So edit menu, edit watermarks. When I click on edit watermarks, I get a window that pops up that gives me some options. And you see an image that's popped in there. So that must be the image that I had clicked on most recently. And right now, you can see a circle C and my name. And that's just default on mine. But that's not what I want. So I'm going to change it. You see down here in the very bottom underneath the image, there is a text box and I'm going to change that. So my first thing is that circle C. If you're on a PC, if you enter in Alt and hold down Alt 0169, you'll get a circle C. Alt 0169. So I've got that circle C there. I'm putting the year. I'm putting whatever name is appropriate for what it is you're doing. It could be your name. It could be your business name. And then geographic information. And so for me, that's San Antonio. And I put the state and the country. That to me is what a full text copyright logo should, or copyright watermark should look like. You do it your way, but this is a complete way of being it. So your goal here is if someone needs this image, if maybe these two are on the world scene and some news outlet is saying I need that photograph. They see this photograph, they now know how to contact me. They have the information they need in order to reach out to me. Now this could also be in my metadata. But in all, I think, social media, the metadata is either taken out completely or it's reduced so far that it becomes an orphaned work. Now, by definition, in the copyright law of 1976 here in the U.S., an orphaned work means we can't find out. We don't know who the creator is, and there's nothing about it that causes us to be able to figure it out. So it's an orphaned work. Well, what social media does is take your images and basically turn it into an orphaned work. And so when you put in your logo information there, you're at least taking some of that power back. So that's what a text logo could look like. Now, I'm looking at it thinking, well, that's ridiculously large. And it's really close to the edge. So what do I need to do about that? All right. So I've got some options over here on the right side. I can change the opacity, bring that down to where it's practically see-through. Oh, that was the shadow. This is the opacity that I intended. So I can drop that to nothing where it's not visible. I can have it really light. And there's a lot of times when I do that. For events like this is a good example where I'll have it pretty darn light. And I'm assuming you guys can see this on your screen.
We can see it more on his jacket.
On his shirt. Yeah, that's true. In good point. We can't see it at all through that print on her on her dress. And so you may have to increase it for that purpose. However, I do a batch process with all of these. And so I just make one choice for the entire job, and it goes on the entire job. That's for later. So it has shadow or not. Your choice, what kind of shadow it has if you want that. The alignment, I could put it in the center. I could put it over on the right. However, that's not how I do it. I do it. This has an anchor here that's put it over on the side. I can put it in the middle. I can put it on the right. And I do like it over on the right or in the middle, depending on, for events, a lot of times I want it in the middle. But I also have to consider the vertical images, because whatever you set it at is the same for both vertical and horizontal. And so I need to consider that is too large for a vertical, even if I have it in the center. And so I need for it to be a little bit smaller. So I'm changing its size right here with this slider, the size proportional. I could choose fit and it fills the space. I could choose fill and it gets ridiculous. And so I don't want either of those. I want proportional, and I want the slider to be able to determine what size I want. And so you determine. It's up to you. What size do you want this? I would say that's a little bit on the low side, because when you print, it's possible that you lose just a tiny bit on this. It doesn't take away much, but you have to consider that when a print does not show 100% necessarily. The goal of the printer is to show it all, but a little bit's lost. Not much, but a tiny bit. And so I want to change its location by using the slider on the vertical and raising it up to wherever I feel is appropriate. No, I think that's too high. I think that is about right. What do you think, Melissa?
Yeah, I like it there because it looks like it's just enough away from the edge where you could have that on all of your prints. When you use that, was it fit, Jim, that went
crazy?
Well, that was the crazy one. What was the one that put it all the way across at the bottom for you?
That's fit.
That was fit? Okay. If you do that when you go with the batch processing and you have some vertical, will that automatically
I believe that it does fit for the verticals. I've never done that, so I don't know the answer. And I would err on the side of I don't want to take the time to do it a second time.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I would make it small enough where it's going to fit for either horizontals or verticals.
And if anybody knows any answers like that, feel free to put them there in the comment. As well as if you're watching live right now and you want to use the hashtag live that you're watching, and let us know where you're watching from.
Yeah, I want to know.
Those are always interesting. We love to see where people are watching from.
Yeah. All right. So I can change the font if I don't like that font. And, if you have if you are have a font that is part of your brand, you're going to want to change that most likely to your brand, unless your brand is just really kind of crazy with it, and you may just choose something simple like Arial, Adobe Clean, something that's that's just super simple. And if you want something a little bit bolder, we can sometimes there's that option here, but you also have bold and italic here, just like you would in like Microsoft Word, where we can change that. So play with that, make it however you feel is appropriate,
Yeah. I
and
like
you
the
can change
options.
the color.
The options on here are so neat. I've never used Lightroom for the watermark. I've used, like you're saying, because most of my stuff's social. So my things always add a layer and then play with the opacity on it and make it just light enough to show. But I like the uniformity that this offers. So this is nice to see it in the Lightroom.
Yeah, Lightroom does make it pretty easy,
Hmm.
I feel. So now, once I'm done, once I feel like this is what I want for the entire job, now it could be just one image, but for the most part, if I put a watermark like this, it's an entire event. And it's going to if I do it like this, it's probably going to be going online for people to be able to view on their own and print if they want to. That they can have it purchase e-commerce. They can purchase a print. So if they wanted a 5x7 of this, and I were to put it online, they'd be able to purchase this image.
Yeah, we have Tommy Johnson there saying, I use this a lot in Lightroom, and it's such a lifesaver for batching.
Yes. Oh man, it makes it easy. Yeah. So I would hit save here, but I want to move into something else. What if I don't want a text version and I want my actual logo? All right, we can change that. Up here at the top where it says image options, please choose a PNG or a JPEG image. So I click on choose. I open up the file folder that has my logos in it. So let's go there. And I need a JPEG, or I'm going to use a PNG because I want the background to be transparent. I don't want
And
anything in it. And so let's see, here's a white one. And I just move that to exactly where I think is appropriate. Right about there. And, if I want to change the opacity on that, then I can. And
yeah.
in this instance, I probably would. I might take it down a tiny bit, but not much. I want it to be seen.
Hmm.
So there's approximately where I'd put it. I might move it over a tiny bit more. Maybe there. But that's how I do that. So if I'm done, that's when I hit save. But you may be wondering, all right, what if I don't have one of those already made like you do, Jim? Okay, I had to start somewhere. I had to create this. And so we will be talking about how to create that. But that is something I do in Photoshop. So when we open Photoshop up, I will go over that. So there's where we are on that. I can make this a preset and title it however I want to. I actually don't want to do that, and so I'm going to hit cancel this time because I don't want to. So you can see where we are right now, where we opened up Lightroom. We went to edit watermarks down in the bottom part of edit watermarks. We opened up that window to be able to manipulate the different variables of creating that watermark. And we first created a text watermark. Then we used an image that was existing, a PNG logo file that I have, to create the graphic watermark. Those are your two choices. And so you apply that by clicking that save, and you you now have that on your image, and you can, if you set that as a preset, then when you choose to go to export and you're leaving the you're finished with all of your work and you're exporting your images, then down, let's go all the way to the bottom where it says watermark. I click on watermark. I choose the watermark that I want. Now it could be I could use text in here, but I could choose something that I've done in the past. So these are pre-saved presets. These are presets that I have created in the past. That's what you're seeing there. If you've never done this before, you won't have any of those sitting there. But as you add them, they just get added into this. And you can apply this when you export to every single image. That's the batch processing. That way you're not having to do it to each individual image. And probably most people don't do that, but man, if you have been adding watermarks one image at a time and you've got a lot of images,
Life changer.
that took you a lot of time. So hopefully you haven't been going through that and you've been doing this type of batch processing. So that's how you do that. I'm going to cancel that because I don't want to do that here. So, and that's what you're seeing here. Now this is where in the library mode, you select the images you want and then click export. So that's number 5. Do they have access to this handout, Melissa?
No, not yet. I haven't. I didn't.
Okay.
Did you email that to me already?
Just minutes before the show. So it doesn't surprise me that you didn't have a chance to check your email because it was really just 5 minutes, 10 minutes beforehand.
I'll add that in there. And we will have this available. If you're watching in the replay, it'll be in the description of the YouTube video.
So that's how to do it in Photoshop. Now, hopefully that answers any questions, but if there are any questions about the Lightroom side of things before I move over into the Photoshop side, then I'd be happy to answer those. You don't see any questions about that, do you? Okay,
not
cool.
yet.
So I'm not going to be needing that anymore. You know what? Maybe I don't want to quit. I just want to minimize. Ooh, don't want to see that.
That's the rabbit.
Bring Lightroom back up. All right, so you should be seeing now the Microsoft Word document of this lesson, and in the background Photoshop. Is that what you see?
That's what we see.
Yay! All right, so I mentioned a moment ago that what happens if you don't already have a logo in this form, in a PNG form. Now, I am going to assume that you've already built a logo because this really isn't about building your logo. However, we could create one right now if we wanted to. In fact, maybe we will. But you can see the steps here. Number 1 is open new, or use the shortcut Control-N if you prefer shortcuts, or Command-N. And then number 2 is set the pixels to 1000 by 1000 and then click create. And then if we're going to create a text version, and we'll start off with that, you do text tool, and then we choose the color of black, solid black. So it's all zeros. And whatever is black will show up. Whatever is not, it will show up as transparent. So let's create that. So we're going to the file new, or we just can go over here to new file. And okay, so you're probably not going to see this in your recent, but because I was preparing for the class, that's why you see that 100 by 1000. Because you won't have that just sitting here, I'm going to do it over here on the side. And so width 1000, height 1000, resolution 72. And you leave the rest of these just as they are. Since this is the square orientation, is irrelevant. I'm going to click create. And of course, on the screen, I'm just going to have a square. So let's say that I want to have, let's do text. I have it on black right here in this menu down at the bottom. I have black already chosen. And so I'm going to start typing something. So let's say, uh, let's come up with a name, sunflower photography. Make that bigger. Because I didn't even know if I spelled it correctly. Clearly I did. All right. Oh, in case you're wondering what I just did, so I've highlighted the word and I've gone over to what I want to affect, the size. And I can affect it here by just changing that number. I can put in 55 and enter that, and it changes the number. But I can also put my cursor on the name of the tool. Just hover over that name, and you see the little two arrows, and they may be too small, but there's two arrows next to the little finger, and I can make it. I can go to the side and make it smaller, and go to this side and make it larger. So that's just a quick tool to be able to just make it the way that I want it to be. There we go. So I like that. But I want to make those, I want to make it taller. So I'm going to go to character and I am going to increase the size of that, doing exactly the same thing. Now you're seeing it's going above.
Mhm.
All I have to do is lower it, and it's now back where it goes. Now, why is it not the color that I wanted it to be? Well, let's look over here at paragraph, or excuse me, character, because this is where I set the color. So if I just simply change that over to solid black, and that's actually all zeros, 6 zeros, that's solid black. And then put my cursor back here and enter photography. And obviously that's going to be too large because that word's bigger. And I want to increase the space between the two. And so I'm putting my cursor here and I'm dragging that. I need to highlight it and then drag it. And now I'm putting some space in between the two. Now I'm going to deal with the size. That should be capped. So let's make that smaller. Control Z, because I didn't intend to only grab that part of it. Control Z is doing nothing for me. Okay. No problem, because I don't want it capped anyway. I'll just do it again. Why is that a... Oh, I must have had my cursor in the wrong spot. Right. So sunflower photography. And I may like it just the way it is. I may want it to change it. I may want to add something to it, maybe just a bar going across. But whatever I want my logo to look like, maybe I want to add in, let's go here to custom shape tool. And let's see if I can find a flower or something that looks like a sunflower. I should have thought of something that was already here. And sunflower might be, I just don't know.
So you got a butterfly there, but
Let's just go with the sun. I can make that any size I want. I don't want it to have any stroke at all. In this instance. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it. I just want to simplify this. You can have a color other than solid black. I just want to start you there. If you do, it needs to be on a grayscale. But if you do something less than solid black, so in that gray area, you actually do get the different tones there in your image. But I want to do this just in solids. And clearly I don't want it to take over everything. And so what do I want to do here? I could make that smaller if I want to, because I put it there huge to begin with, or I could put the photography below it, but whatever it is I want to do with this, I could put white around it. So I could put solid white. No, it's close enough. All right, so I might want to make that a bit bigger. That way I have a little bit of separation, but I still think even if that photography word was a little bit lower, and you may want to put those on separate layers. Okay. I'm going to make that smaller. By the way, when I'm moving this around, there's going to be a little tiny pink line telling me I've got it right up and down the center. There's another way to do this, but I usually just do it this way. So if I decide that's what I want, then I go from here. If I want this to be to come up just a little bit, make it just a little bit bigger, coming up into the letters, I could. But I'm going to keep it simple and just not cover up anything. And put it back in the center. There we go. So let's say that that's what I want my logo to look like. Guys, this is like the ugliest logo. But let's say I was thrilled with it and I loved it. At this point, and I'll bring the handout back up so you can see where we're at. Here's the text options. Here's the graphic options. Creating a layer and all that kind of good stuff. And you can see, type in the name. Click the check mark, but we've already passed by that. Change the font size to whatever it is that you want. Edit, define, brush, preset. That's where we're at right now. Is step number 4 on text, step number 5 on the graphic side. By the way, if you just have a a solid logo, then you would just add your logo to this and make sure that it's just black in this example. And then, so we're going up to edit. You can see here on number 4 or number 5, edit, define brush preset. So that's where we're headed. Edit, and then down to define brush preset. It's about 2/3 of the way down on the edit menu. When I click on that, you're going to see a small window open up. You're going to see what you just created miniature right here because you're creating a brush. Now you may be thinking, why would I create a brush? Why would I need that? Because a brush is vectorized and you can change its size so freakishly easily. And so what do I want to name it? Well, I may want to name it Sunflower Photography Logo. And I keep the 1 there because maybe I want to make more than 1. So Sunflower Photo Logo 1. I click on OK. And you're like, okay, well, what did that do? All right. Go up to your brushes. And you've probably got a bunch of brushes in here. But guess what the most recent one is? If you click on it, and I'm going to just bring, oh, here we go. Can you see how the outline is there?
Yes.
So I can, let's say that I get rid of everything here. Let's say that's an image. If I click, boom, there it is. Because I have this. Now, if I click and drag, it's going to look really funky. You might think it looks kind of cool, though. I mean, that does kind of look cool, but that's not our intent. So we're going to Control Z out of that, Control Z out of that, and using my bracket keys. So on the keyboard itself, underneath the minus and plus and equals is the bracket. I can make it smaller by clicking and holding the left, or I can make it larger by clicking and holding the right. So I could make it where just the logo and in between is pretty much all that's showing. And I could make it where it's small enough. Let's say that's a photograph, that I put my logo down there in the bottom right corner. So I can make that any size I want, and it's quick and easy.
And like you said, using it as a brush with it being vectorized means when you print it, it won't have a pixelation around the logo.
That's right. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, having it as a brush makes things so freaking easy. So you can see that, I've got my signature and my Jim Landers and Just Landers as a signature, and Landers Photography School. So it's just quick and easy using a brush.
That's great. And not only photographers, but artists can do this because I've always talked about either doing it on another layer, but this is another idea is to do the brush and save it there. Because I try to tell a lot of artists to have their art photographed before they sign it. Because, like you were saying, where most artists like to put their signatures right down in that flushed corner of the right. And what happens is they get it photographed and then they go to make prints and it gets cropped off. It's only part of the name is showing, or if they do a gallery wrap, it's folded underneath on the canvas. So having that and being able to position where your logo or your signature goes is big help.
Yeah.
Especially when you can size it up and down. And again, it's a vectored thing, so you won't have pixelation.
I agree. Now, in this particular image,
Mm-hmm.
having it in black makes it difficult to see.
Correct.
So because I've made it into a brush, then
Color.
all I do is I change the color and I can make it whatever color I want. White is very easy to see on this particular image.
Mhm.
And of course you can play, you can put it over on this side and see which side you think looks better.
And then play with the opacity, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
It's like being its own little layer without being a layer.
So I actually want to do this as its own layer. So, and I didn't
Mhm.
show you that, so might as well do that. So I'm going to open up a new layer. Now you can do it by going here and going to new, but notice out here on the side, you've got shift control in. And so if I just hit the shift control in, I get a new layer as a uh, shortened version of being able to do that. But you have to remember the shift control in.
Mhm.
And after you've done this 20 times, you'll have that kind of thing memorized. And so I want that to I just want to call it logo, and then I'm putting my logo on it. And at this point, I can change that opacity. And I can make it where it just barely shows if I want to. But I usually want to be able to see it pretty clearly. And usually 100%. Not always. It depends. So that's how I do that. And you can see we're on applying to an image. Open any image you want to add, just like we just did. Click B on your keyboard to change the cursor into the brush, or click the brush icon on the tool palette. And in this instance, we just click the brush icon. But if you click B on your keyboard, that also does it. You see how that changed? You can't see me clicking the B, but I'm clicking over here. By the way, when you hover over these, the tool name comes up and a description, which makes it so much easier to learn than when I started learning Photoshop. Uh, the first
And
time I was exposed to Photoshop, I didn't even attempt to learn it the first time. But the first time I was exposed to Photoshop was in 1991. It was spring of 91, and that was my senior year in college when I was getting my photography degree. I I was at that school the last class to go through 100% analog. The next year was required one digital class. So I didn't do any digital classes. They didn't exist while I was there.
yeah.
So I'm on that. I click on B, and you can see it changed to the brush tool. And that's what causes me to be able to put that there or change it to some other. Like I've got a save the date icon that I can put there. I don't use that one very often, but I did at one point. So that's where we were. You place it, you size it, and change the color, change the opacity. So you have control over that. So how do you feel about that? Is that something that you guys think you can do?
I
Is it
mean,
something you've done before?
definitely have done before too, and I can, like you were saying, the analog style, I can kind of even remember, burning logos onto images under an enlarger when I was first learning photography and
Really? Dang.
stuff like that, like and, there's, it's funny, there's a renaissance now of darkroom coming back. San Antonio used to have a darkroom, community here on, I think it was on South Alamo, and then there's a place in Austin, um, Silver something that does as well that lets you kind of rent a community darkroom and get to do some of those old techniques. So, um, it's really interesting just to see how far Photoshop has gone and how easy it has made it. You were mentioning it coming out like right when you were in college. I would think I was in high school and I was our yearbook editor. And I remember Photoshop and I remember the bomb coming out on the Mac all the time. I mean, I honestly didn't know how I was going to get through with Photoshop at the first time because I had Adobe PageMaker running and then I'd have photo and you'd get that bomb. So, if you didn't save your work, you were just there screaming your head off. So I want to say a lot of us who went right after they started using that, you learn to save all the time. And I think now, um, you have so many softwares that automatically save for you. But if you're like me, I'm like, I think I'm hitting Control S as I type and do things all the time. And I think it's just PTSD from early 90s on working on some of those things. But
Yeah.
yeah, and then you were mentioning, like I said, there is so many photo apps you can do that as well too. You won't have like I said with a brush where you get that nice vector looking thing. It might look a little pixelated. Um, some of them will do a remove background because I know I'll grab things, but like I said, if I'm using it really as a post for social, I'm not all that concerned about it being printed up. And on a fly, I might use that. So just to kind of keep branding in there for whomever else we're partnering with. But there's also I noticed when we were looking for this class, I was trying to find just examples that there are places that have watermark generators. Now, have you ever used those or worked with anybody who's used a watermark generator before?
No, I'm not sure I know what that is.
Yeah, it was just something I happened to find, and I'm guessing it's a generic thing, and it'll probably just say like proof or whatever or the grid that we were
Oh,
talking about it. But yeah,
okay.
there was some watermark generators that I was running across, and let me see if I can just share my screen, and we'll look at those. 1% share screen. Let's go to the Chrome tab and find Google. So yeah, I saw some of these, and these are I guess, like samples that you can get. Which to me, like I said, this would be more for like something uh, where it's a catalog to get your work. But yeah, they have
Hmm.
that grid mark and outlines and stuff like that, which I don't necessarily know when I would use something that heavily thing other than an online catalog. Um, so it's interesting just to see different, uh, like I said, these watermark generators and templates that people had on here. So I guess instead of watermark generator, it would say maybe like you were saying sunflower photography, and it would give you this um, the pattern so that you can just go ahead and download it and place it over as another layer. But yeah, I had never heard of watermark generators because I just think that it's such an easy thing to use with the tools that are available with Photoshop and most photo software that's even available on the phone nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's it is quite a bit easier than it's ever been,
Hmm.
and it's just a tool. There's some photographers some artists who are never going to use a watermark of any kind,
Yeah.
and there are some who don't identify their work, and that's artist preference. I think artists should identify their work, but that's me. That's what I feel. That and
Hmm.
because I feel something's right does not make it right. And anyone who puts themselves in the category of my way or the highway, I think of as just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Um, so even if I feel they're right, I still feel they're being a jerk when they do the my way or the highway attitude, because we're all different. We all see things from a different point of view, and we're all doing things for different reasons. So even if we're doing a similar thing as someone else, we may be doing it and we are doing it for totally different reasons. So therefore, our conclusions are going to be different. And so, generally speaking, for everything that I do, it gets everything that's printed gets a signature, unless it's really small, and I don't want to make it. I don't want to sign something so darn small, and then maybe I'll do a watermark like 4x6s and wallet size, which people don't order as much of anymore.
Yeah.
It's mostly gift prints and wall portraits. So gift prints are generally 5x7s, 8x10s, 11x14s, the smaller sizes.
Mhm.
And then wall portraits are generally the medium sizes, the 16x20s, the 20x24s, and then of course when you get plus the 2 feet and 3 feet category, that goes into what I would consider wall portrait size. And of course, I'm going to sign those. I take a lot of pride in in having my name on my artwork, saying that I created this. This is mine. I'm proud of it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's part of it too, taking pride in your work, you know? So, and that's what that watermark or that signature should be, you know, and it's also, I always think of it as legacy as well, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
I have been lucky enough to get to see some Salvador Dali stuff, and it's, you know, and I've watched other artworks too, and it's just the authentication process that goes in if you are uh, appraisal work is amazing because there's a lot of stuff in appraisal work. But you know, when y'all are putting those watermarks and stuff like that, that's legacy. You don't think of just today and even 10 years from now. Think of past your lifetime. You know that
Good point.
there's a lot of people who catalog work, even photographers. I mean, there's Enzel Adams. How long has he been gone? And there's still kids in high school getting posters made of his work. And
That's awesome.
I have a whole bunch of Ansel Adams, you know, Annie Leibovitz.
Yeah.
She's still around doing master classes, and there's a lot of Rolling Stone posters of her stuff that I have, and it's you know, even with photographers, there's a style, you know, and even though there's people who might mimic or come up, you start I think even when you're collecting photography, you start to get an eye for it. Like, you know who shot that picture, you know who did this. One of my friends who's now been gone several years, Rick Hunter, who was a photographer at the Express News.
Yeah.
I can go somewhere in a commercial place, and I'm like, you know, that looks like Rick Hunter's work, and people are like, it's a
Uh,
tomato. How do you know we have the
that's
tomato?
cool.
It's Rick Hunter's work. It's just you
Huh.
just do, you know. There's just there's certain things with Rick's work that I could pick up and I'll see, and I'm like, oh, I just, you know. And I have we were talking about that your vertical Alamo shot. I have one of his original ones that, and you know, it's so funny because it was probably done when digital first came out, and he was doing this upward shot of the Alamo, and you know, when he printed it, he was all excited about these printers he had gotten, these Epsons there, and he did himself, and he was like, I don't know if I like that one's so pixelated. I'm like, I kind of like it. It's sort of gritty. It looks punk. It looks like Alamo punk rock. I want it. And signed it for me, and I have that thing. I have it in an $800 frame, you know, and I just I think photographers as they do it and those watermarks, that signature, it puts so much value, I think, to photographers' work. So I really hope people take what you've shown them and done that and do that just to have legacy, you know, that y'all you were here. It's kind of like your stamp on the world that you were here, and it'll be their generations after we're all long gone.
Yeah. Good point. I
Yeah.
like that.
Well, I want to thank you. You're always taking these times to do this. I can't wait to start working to next year because I think that's going to be so much fun and interesting that we're going to try to get some more people in here with us, other photographers, and kind of discuss because we'll talk a little bit about that. One thing that you have done that I have loved has been your take a photographer to lunch. It's, you know, and all we see is just the photo on your post. But I'm like, God, what are those conversations like? You know, because you'll give us a snip of maybe a question that's come on there. And let's see here. And I always wonder, you know, what goes on in those lunches? What kind of conversations do you have? And I really think just from the snippets that you give on there, it's like, man, that would benefit so many people because I'm sure they have the same questions. And I'm sure there's, like you said, there's questions that, because I watch your other show, the Portraits for, uh, Profits for Portrait thing, and it's, you'll have something like 10 most asked questions by photographers. And I'm not sure how many of those you've taken out of the lunch, but I'm sure there's certain things that every photographer starting in portrait or wanting to make you know, this is really their mainstream of income ask you, because I mean you've done this for now how many decades? We're
I've,
going on
I've been
decades.
full time in photography, full time for 30, over 30
Yeah. So
years.
yeah, and got extensive amount of experience to share. So this will be interesting. I can't wait to go ahead and get to do something along those lines, and see where the conversations leads and see how those will benefit other photographers. And if you're a photographer in the San Antonio area, let us know if there's some questions. Maybe we can work this into one of our first Thursdays that are going, and you'll have a chance to talk here with Jim, who's got so much experience. And like I said, there's something so valuable to having not only a mentor, but a mentor who's done the work, who's been there. Because they like they say, there's people who teach and they can't do, but you're somebody who is they do and you can teach. So it's a nice combination, a rare combination to get.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Um, well, I want to wish you and Robin, your whole Landers household there, happy holidays, Merry
Thank
Christmas
you.
as
The
we get
same
that.
to you.
And we look forward to seeing you next year.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope
Hey,
you
did you
have
have
been
any other announcements for photo essay or anything that you want to?
well. I don't know who the speaker is going to be, but the next meeting is a week from today at the Dominion Country Club at 6:30 in the evening.
Mhm.
Everything's free, but we do accept donations of $10 for the meeting. No one needs to. No one has to do that. They can even watch it live streamed, and there's definitely not a charge for that. They're welcome to send a donation if they want to, but the majority don't do that, and that's fine. We're not doing it to make money. We lose money on the camera club, and we're fine with that.
Mhm.
That's I'm not commenting one positive or negative. That's just how it is. If you want to make that donation, great. It offsets our costs.
Yeah.
But we have a speaker come in every single month to just share their passion, share their joy, share their reasons for doing the things they do, so that you can get, as an observer, as a viewer, a different perspective, a different way of looking at something that maybe you've seen before, but maybe they have a different take on it.
Mhm.
Something that you, as an artist, can take pieces of and grow who you are, and just enhance your art and your energy level to do it. So that's every month on the second Thursday, 6:30 at the Dominion Country Club. It is also live streamed to the photo essay page on Facebook.
Yeah. So you can take advantage of whether you're in the San Antonio area or from afar, no matter what corner of the world. Well, Lindsay, thank you also for the Merry Christmas, and we wish you a Merry Christmas as well. And again, to everybody who's watching, whether you're watching this live or whether you're watching this later on home, hopefully, if you're in San Antonio area, you have like a hot coffee or a hot chocolate while you're watching this, some warm drink because it is kind of cold today. And we were hoping you're cozy and getting all of your Christmas
Yeah.
shopping done. So thank y'all very much for doing these and attending and watching live and watching even the replays. We appreciate it as well. And we hope everybody has a safe holiday, and we will see everyone in 2023.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Jeff.
Bye bye.